Odd blind date, gone wrong, until the paralyzed female CEO smiled and said, "Thank you for seeing me." The restaurant was one of those places where silence cost extra, the kind where crystal, chandeliers hung like frozen, tears and every whispered conversation felt like a confession. Marcus Chen sat at table 7, his palms sweating against the pressed linen napkin in his lap, watching the door like a man waiting for either salvation or judgment. He'd been on bad dates before. The woman who spent 2 hours talking about her ex. The one who asked him to Venmo her before appetizers arrived. But tonight felt different. Tonight, he could already sense the disaster brewing in his bones. His phone buzzed. A text from his sister. "Don't you dare leave early. Give her a chance." Easy for Janet to say. She wasn't the one being ambushed into a blind date with her college roommate's cousin. She wasn't the one who'd spent the last 3 months recovering from a breakup that still felt like a bruise that wouldn't fade. Marcus had agreed to this dinner in a moment of weakness, and now, as 7 o'clock became 7:15, he wondered if being stood up might actually be the universe's way of showing mercy. Then he saw her. She came through the entrance in a way that made the entire room pause. Not because she was loud or dramatic, but because of the profound quiet that surrounded her. Olivia Richardson moved in a motorized wheelchair, her posture impeccable, her expression unreadable behind designer sunglasses that seemed like armor. An assistant walked beside her, whispering directions, and Marcus felt his stomach drop as understanding crashed over him. She was blind and paralyzed. And his date. His first thought shamed him immediately. Janet didn't tell me. His second thought was worse. How fast can I get out of here? But before he could move, before he could signal the waiter or fake an emergency text, something happened that would change everything. As Olivia's assistant guided her chair toward his table, they passed a young couple arguing in hushed, vicious tones. The man stood abruptly, his elbow catching the edge of his wine glass. It toppled, rolled, and shattered against the marble floor, directly in Olivia's path. The assistant gasped, froze. Other diners turned away, embarrassed by the mess, by the disruption. The manager rushed forward with apologies spilling from his mouth like the wine, bleeding across the floor. But Olivia simply raised her hand. "Wait," she said, her voice clear and surprisingly warm. "Is everyone okay? Did anyone get hurt?" The man who'd knocked over the glass stood there, flushed with embarrassment and wine and whatever argument had preceded this moment. I'm fine. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "Glass breaks," Olivia said simply. "Hearts are harder to repair. I hope whatever you two are fighting about is worth it." She smiled then, and it wasn't condescending or preachy. It was genuine, kind, the smile of someone who knew something about broken things. The couple stared at her. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Then Olivia's chair hummed forward, navigating around the mess with practiced ease, and stopped at Marcus's table. "You must be Marcus," she said, turning her face toward him with uncanny accuracy. "I'm Olivia. I apologize for the dramatic entrance. I promise my exits are usually better." Marcus stood so fast he nearly knocked over his own chair. Yes, hi, please sit." "I mean, you're already—" He winced. "I'm sorry, I don't know the right words." "The right words are usually the honest ones," Olivia said as her assistant helped position her at the table.
"Thank you."
"David, I'll text you when we're done." She removed her sunglasses, revealing eyes that didn't quite focus on anything but somehow seemed to see everything. "So, Marcus, before we begin this potentially awkward evening, let me save us both some time. My cousin told you I was successful and smart and really pretty despite everything. Didn't she?" Marcus choked on air. There may have been a description that—" "Despite everything," Olivia repeated, her lips quirking. "As if my wheelchair and my blindness are plot twists in an otherwise acceptable story." She leaned forward slightly. "Here's what Janet probably didn't tell you. I'm the CEO of Richardson Technologies. I've built a company worth $300 million. I speak 4 languages. I have a black belt in adaptive martial arts, and I can drink most men under the table. I also haven't been on a date in 2 years because every man who sits across from me sees a charity case instead of a woman." The words hung between them like a challenge and a confession. Marcus should have felt defensive. Instead, he felt something crack open inside his chest, something that had been sealed, shut since his ex-girlfriend told him he was too soft for this world. He set down his menu and met Olivia's unfocused gaze with his own. "I was planning to leave," he said quietly. "Before you got here, I was going to fake an emergency and disappear, because I was scared and unprepared." And he took a breath. "And I'm tired of being someone I'm not. Your cousin didn't tell me about the wheelchair or that you were blind. But honestly, I think I would have run either way. I've spent 6 months being a coward, and tonight was just going to be more of the same." Silence. Marcus braced for anger, for dismissal. Instead, Olivia laughed. A real laugh, surprised and delighted. "Well, that's the most honest thing anyone's said to me in years. Thank you for not lying." She tilted her head. "So now what? Do we order dinner as two people who were honest enough to admit they're both terrified? Or do you still want to run?" Marcus looked at this woman, this blind, paralyzed woman who'd stopped to comfort strangers, who'd built an empire, who sat across from him without pretense or self-pity, and felt something shift inside him. "I'd like to stay," he said. "If that's okay with you." What happened over the next 2 hours surprised them both. They talked about childhood dreams and adult disappointments, about Olivia's car, accident at 23 that had stolen her, sight and mobility but somehow sharpened, her vision for what mattered, about Marcus's career as a pediatric nurse, a job his ex had called unambitious, and how he'd almost quit because he'd started believing her. "She was wrong," Olivia said fiercely when he mentioned it. "The people who take care of others when they're most vulnerable, those are the bravest people in the world." "You take care of people," Marcus said. "Your whole company, doesn't it develop assistive technology?" "I build tools," Olivia corrected gently. "You hold hands when children are scared of needles. You show up every day for people who can't advocate for themselves." "That's not the same thing." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes and didn't hide them. "I think you're extraordinary," he whispered. Olivia reached across the table, her hand moving slowly until it found his. Her fingers were warm, strong, certain. "I think you see me," she said softly. "Not the wheelchair, not the blindness, not the CEO title, or the money, or the inspirational narrative people like to project onto disabled women. You see me?" Her voice cracked on the last word, and Marcus realized she was crying too. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing me." He turned his hand over, threading his fingers through hers, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not the desperate, grasping kind, but the quiet certainty that sometimes the universe breaks us open, so we can finally let the right people in. "Thank you for waiting," he said, "for giving me the chance to be brave enough to stay." They sat there, two broken people holding hands across a table in an expensive restaurant, while around them conversations resumed and wine glasses clinked and life moved forward in all its messy, beautiful complexity. Neither of them knew where this would lead, but for the first time in a long time, both of them knew they weren't facing the future alone. Outside, rain began to fall against the windows like applause.